Hello and welcome to today's Delta Credit Tip. So you finished school, congratulations, you're all educated, and here comes the bill. Now you're wondering, what am I going to do to manage this student loan debt? So you go online and you Google, and everybody says, don't pay student loans, we'll get them discharged, we'll get them deleted, never pay them. What? How do I know what's true and what isn't? What programs really exist? How do I get those teachers to just leave us kids alone and take a brick out of that wall of debt? Well, stay tuned. We'll tell you right here on today's Delta Credit Tip. Hello and welcome back to today's Delta Credit Tip. So you finally got that degree, and now you finally got the bill. What are you going to do now? Right? That bill's going to come due very, very soon. And you can defer it and you can postpone it all you want to, but it's still going to grow and you're still going to have to deal with it. Student loan debt in the United States is at an epidemic level. And it's to the point where a lot of education majors don't produce the salaries that are needed to cover those costs. And some of those industries are vital to our communities. So the government has stepped in and they said, okay, for certain industries, we're going to have provisions in place to help those particular students or students with certain circumstances deal with this student loan debt in the way of discharging either all or a portion of that debt. This has led to a flurry of opportunities on the internet for you to Google, only to find out that half of what they're telling you is 1, wrong, and 2, super expensive, and 3, don't get the results that they promised when you sign that dotted line. So hopefully today, what we can do is present to you some real options as to how you can get those federal debts of student loans discharged without payment. Recognize we're not going to talk today about types of payment. We're not talking income-based, income contingent, standard, extended standard, none of that, right? We're talking about what can we actually do, what circumstances actually exist, what programs are there so that you can get those student loans discharged, okay? So the first opportunity that you might have is in your employment, okay? There are certain industries, primarily government jobs and public services, where you can be able to discharge either a portion or all of your student loan debt. First, let's talk about those government jobs. That's really having some sort of political office, okay? That means you're a senator or a president or something along those lines. Or maybe you work as a public servant, like a police officer or a firefighter, okay? Certain job types that are, public service related gives you that opportunity to have a portion of your loans discharged. Another employment type that could lead to the same result is working for a nonprofit, a 501c3 company. Once you've worked for a certain amount of time, or should I say pay on your student loans for a certain number of times, which is typically 120 payments or 10 years, then you are eligible to have a portion of your debts with the U.S. Department of Education discharged. Okay? Now, if you work for a nonprofit that is not a 501c3, there still might be opportunity for you there as well. There are certain groups like AmeriCorps that the Department of Education will still recognize and give you that credit that you're looking for that discharge. Recognize that for these positions, you're going to have made payments towards your student loans for, like I mentioned, those 120 payments or 10 consecutive years. But you want to also look at how much that payment needs to be, because sometimes it could be a $5 payment or a $500 payment. Regardless, what you need to have in place is that job and that length of time that you've paid towards the Department of Education loans. Okay? The next opportunity you might have is being a teacher, right? Teachers, we have a huge need for teachers in the United States. So specifically for teachers, there is an opportunity for you to have a portion of your loans discharged as a result of you being a teacher. But you can't just be any teacher. You can't work for, a private school or Catholic schools. It's got to be low to moderate income schools, okay? And you also have to be a qualified teacher in your state. And there's typically, it requires a bachelor's degree and a certain stream of rigorous testing, as the Department of Education quotes it, to qualify as a qualified teacher. So again, low to moderate income school, and for a certain amount of time you have to be in that school to be eligible for that. So because we need teachers, I do strongly recommend that if you have a teaching degree and you have that student loan debt, you look at that, because the way our lending laws are with FHA, or should I say the guidelines for FHA, most teachers, if they had to borrow money to get that education degree, cannot afford to buy a home based on FHA standards. So if you're a teacher out there and you've gone through school and you're looking to get some permanent residency somewhere, you got a school that you really like, but you're still kind of fresh out of school and you've got those student loans on deferment, you might want to look at this opportunity, because really without some sort of help with either a second income or something along the lines of these discharges, you're really not going to be able to buy a home in the town that you teach in. Okay? Another opportunity is if you're disabled. If by some unforeseen accident you become disabled, especially if you're 100% disabled, you will not have to worry about paying back your student loans. If you are a veteran and it is required that you get 100% disability from the VA, unfortunately, that's super, super difficult. At least what I have found with trying to help our clients. So you may want to seek professional help, maybe even with an attorney, to help you establish 100% disability from the VA if you feel as though you should be getting that. As a 100% disabled veteran, or 100% disabled period, really, you can have your student loans discharged without payment. Okay? Another opportunity is if you're filing bankruptcy. Now, if you talk to most attorneys, they're going to tell you that you cannot discharge government-backed loans in a bankruptcy. And that's not exactly accurate, okay? There are extra steps that you can take, all right, to have government debt like student loans discharged from your bankruptcy. It just takes a little bit of extra work, and you're going to have to still qualify for that trustee to go ahead and go along, and the Department of Education to go along with you discharging those government loans, those student debts. So if you're filing bankruptcy, Chapter 7 or Chapter 13, make sure you bring that up. That, if you want to bring that up with your attorney and say, hey, can you research the idea that these student loans can be discharged, or maybe just get a second opinion, okay? Another opportunity, which I really do not recommend you try at home, is if you die. If you pass away, you don't have to pay the debt, but neither does your family. Okay, so don't try that one at home, but that is, an option. Okay, another more popular one, especially with some of these local universities that you may have, if they close while you're in that school, or if they close within 120 days after you finish that school, or if that school has been determined to be either fraudulent or they have misled their students as to their qualifications and what they can expect as far as a degree out of a curriculum and its faults. Well, there's opportunity there for you to have those fraudulent schools where you really got nothing out of that education wiped off of your debt load. Okay. Now, our new Secretary of Education, DeVos, she's got different opinions on that. And it's well-founded. In the United States, student loan debt is considered an asset for the government because they're loaning that money. And it actually represents about a third of the assets of the United States. And with 40% of them being in default, our system is broken. And so Secretary DeVos really isn't looking too strongly at discharging student loans because the school was maybe not the best in the world. There's going to have to be really hard evidence for her opinion, because her opinion has kind of gone down through the system. It's going to be really difficult to have that particular reason as a discharge for your student loans, right? Not impossible, but just a little bit more difficult. Okay? Also, if the school failed to refund money back to the Department of Education that it should have and did not disperse that money to you, there's an opportunity to have those funds, those unappropriated funds, to be then discharged from your debt load with the Department of Education. Okay? So these are some of the federal reasons that you can have to get your student loans discharged. If none of these work for you, you're still alive, you're not disabled, you don't work for the government, you're not working for a nonprofit, none of these things apply to you, well, then there might be opportunity at the state level. All right, you're going to have to look, reach out to some of your state programs. For instance, here in the state of Florida, we have a huge need for nurses. And as a result, our state has a program whereby nurses can have their curriculum, the cost for their curriculums discharged to entice them to be here in Florida. Okay, so look into your state opportunities. You may find you can either add them to or in lieu of something that you can find at the federal level. So these are some of the real programs that actually exist that are out there for you, approved by the Department of Education, that can help you get these loans discharged and help you with that segue into your new life. All right? It can be very difficult, but don't forget you can always call the Department of Education. Right? They have the answers there. Sometimes, though, it still can be a lot of paperwork. It can be very confusing. So seek help. There are companies like ours at Delta Credit Restoration. There are attorneys who are trained for this sort of thing. Just recognize that the information is there and it is possible through one of these options. Okay? Now, I hope this information helps. If so, please give it a thumbs up. Also, subscribe below. Hit the bell so that you're notified every Thursday at noon to remind you that this information exists, and hopefully it'll help you navigate through your credit restoration process. Don't forget, people, we got to share this information. If you're a student, share this with your classmates. If you have a child in school, share this with them or your relatives or your friends. This is how we stay informed. This is how we get the information that we need to stay on top of that bell curve and moving forward. But most importantly, this is how you make a choice to make a change. Delta.